Hello guys, today I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I made a video like this about almost a year ago, but things have changed. Not a lot, but some things have changed, so I thought I would make a new video to inform you on the new pros and cons of living in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Let's get started. One of the biggest pros, and it's still the same pro from last year, is that Bridgeport, Connecticut is about a 60-minute drive from New York City, and that is without traffic. And most of the time, unfortunately, you are going to catch traffic. This pro is only a pro if you work very early in the morning or you work very late into the night, or you get out of work around 12 to 1 p.m. because from 2:30 to 5 p.m. there's extreme traffic. In the morning from 8 to like 11 a.m. there is a lot of traffic as well. So the pro is that you're 60 minutes away from the city, but that's only a pro depending on your schedule. Another pro of Bridgeport, Connecticut is that the rents are affordable compared to Upper Fairfield County. And the reason I gotta say compared to Upper Fairfield County is because the rents are not cheap. For a 2-bedroom, you can usually get from $1,500 to $1,600, and for a 3-bedroom, you can usually get $18,000 and sometimes up to $2,000 depending on how nice it is. Now compare this to a place like Norwalk and Stamford. You can usually get like $2,200 for a 2-bedroom and up to $2,800 for a 3-bedroom. And of course, I'm talking about a nice apartment, not an apartment that is breaking down, but an apartment that is very well kept, and it might have a new kitchen, new bathroom. Those are the rents that I'm talking about. Another pro of Bridgeport, Connecticut that wasn't a pro last year was that the school system has actually improved. I was looking up the school systems in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I saw that the schools have gotten a higher rating, which means that the education system has gotten better. Last year, this was actually one of the cons. Last year, in the video that I made, I talked about how the prices were cheap, but unfortunately, the schools were not as good. I talked about how if you wanted good schools for your kids, you would probably have to move to Stratford, Connecticut, and pay about $50,000 more for the same single family. That's not the case anymore, and a lot of people do enjoy Bridgeport, Connecticut because there's a lot going on there. So now you can live there, and the school system has improved. And since it has improved, I'm hopeful that in the upcoming years it's going to continue to get better, and this will make Bridgeport a lot more attractive. Fortunately, this is also going to make Bridgeport a lot more expensive. The fourth pro of living in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I think this is great if you own a property there, is I think that Bridgeport prices are gonna go up. Bridgeport prices might go down a little bit in this upcoming recession, but ultimately I think that the prices in Bridgeport, Connecticut are gonna continue to increase. The reason I say this is because there is a lot of money being poured into Bridgeport, Connecticut. You see a lot of development, especially on the west side. There's new buildings. Also, a lot of the old factories in Bridgeport, Connecticut, they were just there, they were abandoned. Now they're being repurposed and they're being turned into luxury apartments. So this has been done with a few of these old factories, and I see this to be a trend. I think more people, especially big companies that need to put their money somewhere safe, like real estate, especially when the stock market or other businesses are not as safe. I think these big businesses are going to start buying these factories, and all of these old factories are going to be turned into luxury apartments. The good thing is that the city of Bridgeport seems to be okay with this, because from what I've heard and what I've seen, it seems like the city of Bridgeport is giving these permits. So this is gonna enable Bridgeport to become a better city, because instead of abandoned factories, now there's gonna be luxury apartments there. Unfortunately, that's gonna cause the rent to even go higher than it is right now. So if you can buy a property, I would actually recommend you, only if you want to stay in Bridgeport, Connecticut, because in 10, maybe 5 years from now, you might not be able to afford Bridgeport, Connecticut. And one of the biggest pros for me, at least about Bridgeport, Connecticut, is the parks and the beaches. So you have Bursley Park and you have Seaside Park. I've been all around Connecticut, and these are some of the best parks and one of the nicest beaches, especially if you pay to go closer to the lighthouse. It's always full, people are having a good time. It is a good time. And close to the lighthouse, people can go fishing. There's just a lot of activities that you can do in the summer in Seaside Park. And you could also go to Bursley Park, which has a zoo, has a lake, and a lot of people actually go swimming there. Not to the lower part of Bursley Park, but on the upper part of Bursley Park. Now we're gonna get into some of the cons of Bridgeport, Connecticut. And the first one is the high traffic. Like I mentioned, there is a lot of traffic, especially right now, since a lot of people from New York moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, Stratford, and just to Connecticut overall. So going to the city, there's traffic. Coming from the city, there's traffic. The only time you're not going to catch traffic is if you travel very early, mid, or very late in the day. And I know most people's schedules, they're going to travel the opposite of those times because they work a regular 9 to 5. So for those people, one of the biggest cons is going to be the traffic. Another big con about Bridgeport, Connecticut is that there is no street parking. There is street parking in some places, but in the west side, east side of Bridgeport, Connecticut, where there's a bigger concentration of multifamilies, it's very hard to find street parking. The other thing with that is that a lot of these houses don't have off-street parking, and if they do, the landlord is going to try to charge you about $50 to $100 more just so you can park your car. It used to be that you could just live anywhere in Bridgeport, Connecticut and you can find parking. But recently, since more people have been moving to Bridgeport, Connecticut, also something people don't talk about is the rents used to be about $1,000 10 years ago. For what right now they're gonna charge you about $1,800 in Bridgeport, Connecticut. What happened with that is that a lot more people moved together. So maybe 3 people in 2010 would live in a unit. Well, now because it's a lot more expensive, now there's 5, 6 people living in the same apartment. And why do people do this? It's very simple. Some people have their life in Bridgeport, Connecticut. They don't want to go anywhere else. So now, for every unit, there is close to twice as many people. And all these people own cars. So, of course, that the parking is going to start becoming an issue. It's still not as big of an issue as it is in New York City, especially in the Bronx. But I can see it becoming a bigger issue in the future. Especially if rents continue to go up, then there's going to be maybe 8 to 9 people living in every unit. And right now you might be thinking, how can that many people live in one unit? The reason is because these units are big. They're usually about 1,000, and some of these units are around 1,200 to 1,400 square feet, and that's a lot of living space. And trust me, if you need to fit 9 people there, you can fit 9 people there. Another huge con of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and this used to be one of the biggest pros in last video, was that the prices have been increasing. So for single families, even 3 years ago, you could get something for around $200K in the north end. Right now, to get the same house in the north end is going to cost you from $300 to $350, and that is a big difference. It's because just in a matter of 3 to 5 years, the prices have almost doubled in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The biggest con that Bridgeport is known for is the crime. Even though crime has decreased, it's still prevalent. And even though it's not as common, it still does happen. So I chose to keep that con of Bridgeport, Connecticut in the video. The 5th con of living in Bridgeport, Connecticut is the poverty rate. I talked about how 9 people have to live in one unit to afford it. And that's because they don't want to move out from Bridgeport, Connecticut. And that just shows you that there is not that much money in Bridgeport, Connecticut. At least the people that are living here. The people that are investing here, they do have a good amount of money, because you see them buy multiple houses, multiple buildings. So they have a lot of money, but the people actually living here, a lot of them are living on the poverty line or under it. And the final con of Bridgeport, Connecticut is job availability. There is a lot of jobs in Bridgeport, Connecticut, but there's so many people that live here. So people travel to Norwalk, Greenwich, Stamford. A lot of people from Bridgeport also take the train and go all the way to Manhattan and have a job there. So for me, that would be one of the biggest cons, because the city itself cannot sustain itself. Having the train go all the way from Bridgeport to Manhattan, and some of these trains are direct, which means there's no stops in between, is also a big pro that I didn't talk about. A lot of people, they want to live in a place where they are very accessible to the city, because they just like to go to the city almost every other weekend, and Bridgeport, Connecticut does provide that. Thank you for watching the video. Hopefully the information in this video was helpful, and it gives you a better idea of the pros and cons and what it's like to live in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you're looking to move into Bridgeport, Connecticut, don't hesitate to give me a call or text me or email. I'm gonna have my information somewhere in the video, and I'll help you find the perfect single family or perfect investment. For investments, it's a little bit difficult right now just because the prices are so high. So if you're gonna buy a 3 family, they are still gonna cash flow, but it's gonna be a little bit harder to find that. Get someone on your team that can help you do just that.